I wouldn't feel good. I would feel utterly negligent and irresponsible at this point in time to bring in another human being.
I've gone through the histories of some of these utopians, the ones who believe in the creation of a global utopian society.
Most people, when they give birth to children, it's a traditionalized, self-serving, established notion where we're going to have kids and have a family. To hell with the carrying capacity of the earth. To hell with the fact that we might be impoverished.
Like Bertrand Russell, Lord Bertrand Russell, the Huxleys, going back all the way to Sir Thomas Huxley, the pal of Charles Darwin. And they're all on board with exactly the same agendas to do with depopulation.
This is what all parents out there should be asking themselves. They shouldn't be having children for their own self-serving needs so they can have a family and be traditional and show up at church and have their 2 kids. It has to relate to something real. Humanity has to start thinking about its relationship to the earth. Until it does so, we're fucking doomed.
There are billions of people on this planet, many other groups that are much more productive and much more progressive than these supposed anti-New World Order people.
Problem reaction solution is devastating. It's been used for as long as you can chart back human history. And it goes like this. You want to change society or get people to accept something that in the normal course of events they wouldn't accept. So you don't say openly, this is what we're going to do and this is why we're going to do it. You play this technique. Stage 1, you create a problem. You want a reaction at stage 2 from the public of outrage, of classically fear. And you want them to either say to the authorities, do something, or you want them to accept what the authorities suggest must be done. So you can go to stage 3, which is to offer the solutions to the problems you have covertly created.
You say that in the society we're not going to have more laws, but you say we need to do some things to reduce world population because we are damaging the world with our kids. That's in the video Who is Peter Joseph that was uploaded very recently. And you say that laws are created because of needs, and if this great big cybernetic government on the Venus project says that there is too many people, don't a global law will be need to control the birds on this world?
Okay, well, I don't remember saying anything about the need for global depopulation. I didn't say anything like that.
The whole idea of bringing us through this crisis and into economic depression is to bring out a new system where money is not the key.
Well, to start with, I think this kind of the dictatorship of the future, I think will be very unlike the dictatorship which we've been familiar with in the immediate past.
People have asked me over the years, what's planned? And I've said, read 2 books, George Orwell's 1984 and Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. The latter was published in 1932, Orwell's book was in 1948. Because these 2 had access to the agenda through something called the Fabian Society, they weren't writing from imagination. They had an understanding of where this was supposed to go.
All I've said in regards to population is the fact that we've expanded the population, as I think a lot of people have known, through energy and technology, and we're reaching a peak of our major established energy, and depopulation isn't going to be something that is going to be forced or something that's required. It's probably just going to happen naturally if we continue the processes that we have. As far as law and population, my disposition wasn't that was not that there was a requirement of law or anything like that. The real trick is to get people to establish a new educational, a new value system, if you will, that enables them to realize their relationship to the environment and what they actually do. I think, I believe that's what I stated in that interview that was done with me, was that people need to understand that they have to have foresight of their environment and realize that when they have children, it's not for their own self-serving needs, even though obviously there's an emotional, traditional aspect of that. They have to think about their relationship to the environment when they have kids.
If we try to visualize the future, it's the same families and all that stuff. So when I make movies on the future, I have to use families in there. There'll be no families. Most people won't want children.
You have Aldous Huxley describing a society in which children are disconnected from their parents, where they're bred in laboratories, and where drugs are used to get the children to, and as they become adults, the whole population, to love their servitude and not rebel against it. And we are now seeing quite blatantly the movement to remove children from their parents.
They try to get women to believe in having children. You know, children are a pain in the ass. They're not pleasant. They can't say anything new. They require a lot of your time. You can't travel. You can't do a lot of things. So the population in the future will be diminished.
If things get really, really bad, meaning when the collapse begins to occur more so, I might not be against governments imposing one-child policies, because things can get really, really bad where we have to start going down the barrel of really bad ideas before we can come back up and get on the correct path again.
What's being targeted is anything that holds people together. So the family unit is something that keeps people together. I'm not religious. I'm not into religion at all. But also religious structures are being targeted because they hold people together. Within that unit, there can be diversity of the way children and the family see the world. What any dictatorship wants, no matter what it is uniformity.
You're taught in school that everybody should have a right to their own opinion. Never give people the right to their own opinion. Their own opinion.
The way people see the world and see each other and all the rest of it. They want uniformity. You look at the Soviet Union. What was it? It was a centralized dictatorship that took away all diversity. You look at any fascist dictatorship, centralized control, take away diversity. So any unit of mutual support, or whatever you want to call it, that offers the opportunity for diversity of debate, diversity of view, they want rid of, because they want the central point in the tyranny to dictate the version of life and self that everybody has. You know, it's always the case that tyrannies want uniformity.
Do you believe that this brave new world that you talk about could, let's say in the next quarter century, the next century, could come here to our shores?
I think it could. I mean, that's why I feel it's so extremely important here and now to start thinking about these problems, not to let ourselves be taken by surprise by the new advances in technology.
Do you know a book that's called Ecoscience by John P. Holdren? John P. Holdren is actually the actual science advisor of Obama. He says that a world regime has to be imposed to control the world population. And I mean, do you believe that that book exists and John P. Holdren exists and all these people?
One of the frightening things I noticed when looking up Holdren's background is that he's a member of the Pugwash Conference, which was Bertrand Russell's organization. And you know, this whole thing about the world society deciding over sterilization and eugenics reminds me of this Bertrand Russell quote where it says, "A scientific world society will be necessary to find ways of preventing an increase in world population. It cannot be stable unless there's a world government."
Paul Ehrlich also believes that right now the world is overpopulated and that we need laws to make sure that the Earth is not going to die, because they believe that the Earth is some kind of God, and that when we bring children to Earth, then we are damaging the world.
No, the only thing that damages the world is the system that's been created that is not expansive for the nature of the growth of population. In other words,
User in your
populations are growing
recording.
because we have more access to food and energy. This growth pattern, I think, will be curtailed naturally as education flourishes, and a lot of the superstitions are eroded, and a lot of the basic value associations that are occurring are come to terms with, and people begin, as I stated, I think, in the documentary, people will begin to understand their relationship to the environment, and when they decide to bring in a child, they will understand what that actually means.
Here's what I'm saying to you. I've read the social workers 150 years ago. I've read the social engineers and the transhumanists and the posthumanists, and they all say very close to what you're saying about this utopia of the machines, because certainly you know about the socialists and the Fabian socialists and the engineers, and H.G. Wells and Bertrand Russell and all them, saying about 90% of what you're saying at the end of Zeitgeist Addendum, but overlaying it with government central control to be able to construct it.
As far as the annotations of what you denoted, there's lots of people out there with lots of bizarre ideas. The most distorted mentalities are the ones that want to preserve their establishments. So it doesn't surprise me, again, as I stated before, that those people in the highest echelon of the elite are going to try and create the idea that the current population is too large, so it has to be reduced, because they want to maintain their establishment. It's not that they want to change things into some order and reduce the population to some number. It has nothing to do with any of that.
1,200 official delegates from 113 nations were in Stockholm for the first international conference on the human environment.
We have got to learn to live with stabilized populations, with a more modest use of resources, and we cannot cheat by simply saying we're going to carry on with the same division as we have now, because if 2/3 of humanity, as our delegates have been telling us again and again today, if 2/3 are to stay poor so that 1/3 can stay rich, my friends, they won't do it. It's as simple as that.
Modern man must re-establish an unbroken link with nature and with life. He must again learn to invoke the energy of growing things, and to recognize, as did the ancients in India centuries ago, that one can take from the earth and the atmosphere only so much as one puts back into them.
Eugenics has been with us for a very, very long time.
We've got to stabilize the population. When I was born,
so what's wrong with the population? I mean,
we're too many people. That's why we have global warming. We have global warming because too many people are using too much stuff. But if there were less people, they'd be using less stuff.
Many of us believe that the multiple crises in the world, energy, economic, climate, are signals of the encroaching limits to growth.
At first, it was open. Of course, you had eugenics courts in America, etc., that were dictating that certain children or families, certain, according to the authorities, IQs, etc., disablement, they were to be stopped from having children. And then, of course, Britain, as usual, was massively involved in it. And the Rockefeller families, the Harrimans, the Rothschilds, all these people were involved in this. Some very, very famous people through the years, including people involved in the Fabian Society, including Julian Huxley, who was the head of the British Eugenics Society. He was the brother of Aldous Huxley, who wrote Brave New World, very accurate book because he knew what the agenda was.
Here's what Julian Huxley said. Well, Huxley says the goal of this accidental development of evolution, says man's true destiny is to guide the future course of evolution on Earth towards greater fulfillment. Whatever that means. He says the humanist goal must therefore be the fulfillment society. That's in an article that he published in 1962 called The Coming New Religion of Humanism. So don't say humanism is not a religion. The leaders of humanism recognize it as religion. He even wrote a book called Religion Without Revelation. Now, he was, as I said, the first Director General of UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. He wrote a white paper